Okay, I've got a 1985 C10 that I'm putting an LS in, power window conversion, disc brakes on the rear, just kind of going through it and cleaning everything up, making it all nice and new. Just going over what I've done so far, and then maybe make a build video just to show, to make it easier for everybody else. You can get lost hours and hours doing research online. There's a lot of information online, but you can get lost hours, like I said, just looking for stuff to do, how to LS swap it, and as far as I know, there's only one other person on YouTube that's doing an LS with a T56. It's not a very common swap as far as I'm aware. So kind of how to get that to fit in there and line up nicely. And so this is what I've done so far. I'll put some pictures. I have a whole album dedicated just to this truck, what I've done, and just so you can hopefully get a better understanding. I don't know. So like I said, it's a 5.3 with a turbo, and this is just some Ching Chong T76 off of eBay, $250 or whatever it is. It ought to work fine. This truck, I'm not building it to be like strictly a drag truck. It's by all means not a drag truck. I know that I haven't really done a whole lot of stuff to this truck to make it crazy fast. It's just gonna be a nice little Sunday afternoon cruise, but still have some get up and go. And you can see I still have the AC, the factory AC location, factory bracket on pickup. This is a truck engine. The only thing that's done to the engine is a cam, and other than that, it's all stock. Nothing else is done to this engine. I mean, obviously, I've gone through it and made it dependable, reliable, and just kind of cleaned everything up. You know, deglazed the cylinders, and I put, you can see right there, I put head studs on it just for the boost. I didn't gap rings or anything. Like I said, I'm not really looking for a hot rod, just something just to be fast and reliable. So the engine, it's just freshened up. The Gen 4 5.3 out of a 2008 1500 pickup. It was involved in an accident, so I had to change the crank on it, and I changed the oil pan. I took the crank from this Gen 3 5.3. It's pretty sweaty, pretty tired. You can see the oil pan there, shattered. So I changed the windage tray, pickup tube, crank, oil pan, and front cover, just to get that engine back up in shape. Because this engine I have over here, it was in 2008. It only had 40,000 miles, and it got in an accident and totaled the truck. So it still has the original pistons, original rods, and everything like that in it. Same heads. Just went through it to clean it up. It's got the 799 heads. Like I said, it has head studs. It has a BTR, a Brian Tooley Racing NSR Stage 3 cam. It's a low lift, high duration, so meaning it doesn't have to have push rods or stiffer springs or anything. It's, you know, you can just throw it in there and rock it. So I have that done to the engine. Everything on this truck is brand new. Obviously the AC compressor is not yet. It's just for mock-up purposes to see where I could fit everything. So I've got, you know, everything on this truck's AC Delco, GM or Chevrolet OEM component. So just to freshen the truck up, I'm sticking with the stock front end. I don't want it slammed or anything. So it's got new bushings in the upper and lower control arms, new ball joints, brake hoses, repacked the wheel bearings, painted the calipers red. It's got new brake pads on it, painted the springs. It's got new inner, outer tie rods, Pitman idler arm. All that's all brand new. And I'll tell you what, if you've never done a square body control arm, you know, rebuilding them yourself, it's kind of a pain. So from factory, these upper ball joints, they are riveted in. like that right there, rivet, those little rivets. So you have to cut those rivets off, and then the replacement ball joint comes with bolts, so it's easy to replace later. That's not the hard part. The hard part's those bushings, because it's real thin, flimsy, you know, steel on the top and lower. And you gotta press that bushing out and press the new one in, as well as pressing this rod through the center of them. So it's kind of a pain, but I'm glad I did it. Just everything's new. It's got polyurethane engine mounts on it. And so for the engine mount and transmission mount, I went with a Tejas Steelworks. You know, they say that you can run the factory AC compressor, you know, nicely with it. It's not perfect. You can see there the frame interacts with it just a little bit, but it did help out with the T56 because they push it 3 inches forward or I think it's 3 inches forward and 1 inch up. So it worked out really well with my T56 as well as my log manifold there. And then I've got, so my turbo drain line, I've got a piece that lengthens it down, and then an AN fitting with some nylon hose. And I trimmed my AC compressor bracket so that the hose will fit right up in there, and then, you know, sneak all the way down to the back. I'm draining my turbo into the oil level sensor on the oil pan. I know a lot of people say that doesn't really work, but then there's a lot of people that say it does work. So instead of manufacturing, you know, taking my front cover off or taking the oil pan back off and you know, having it welded, a fitting welded into the oil pan or the timing cover, I'm just gonna run it like that and see how it works. I've heard people had good success with them. I think the only people that talk trash on them are the ones that are theoretical, that haven't actually put them on their vehicle or had any experience with them at all. So I'm gonna try it. We're just gonna see how it goes. I got the valve covers powder coated. We have a powder coating business, so I powder coated the covers with a candy blue. The covers are powder coated candy blue. The engine mounts, the transmission mount, I think some other various components are powder coated the candy blue. You can see the engine mount there. Really good quality engine mount and transmission mount. Everything bolted right up to it. You know, for the transmission mount, you have to drill your own holes in the frame. You have to drill your own holes in the cross member, but that's no big deal. It gives you some versatility. I've got a new master on it, new booster, new shocks, new brakes, new hoses. I converted, so I had this frame. It was sitting in the back for forever, and my dad just wanted it for the cab because he has an 85 that, you know, this is the cab off of his truck, and it's got some body damage, and he just wanted a fresh cab to start over. This cab was involved in a rollover, so he wants something to start fresh with. So he had bought this frame with a cab on it, and it didn't have a bed or anything. It's, you know, it sat real kind of naked. It was missing a fuel tank and drive line, engine, transmission. It was just gutted. So I got that from him, and I didn't realize it was a long bed until, you know, I got the cab on it, the new cab on it, and you really looked at it. So I ended up shortening the frame to make it a short bed. You can see there's a weld there. I cut it right here. So instead of cutting it a straight on cut, I did a Z cut. So I took 14 inches total. I took 14 inches total out of the front of in the middle of the frame here, and then on the back I chopped 5 inches off the back to make it a true short bed. And there's some people online on YouTube that'll show you how to do that. It's real simple. You gotta make sure everything frames square and everything like that. And then, so a lot of those videos that I watched on their brake line, you know, it's gonna be different depending if it's a short bed or a long bed. It's, you know, 14 inches longer. So the people on YouTube, they put these unions in place of the brake line and just chop it shorter. But I went on eBay and I just found me a short bed brake line, and it ties in right below the center of the cab and runs back. So I just replaced the whole line, so it was all original. My fish plated the inside of it there, so it's a little bit stronger. I don't think I'll have an issue with it, especially because the fuel tank bracket here, it is like right in the center of that Z-cut, so it's got some extra support on the inside and the outside. It's got, so I had a buddy who had a 98 or 99 Z28, and he changed the rear end on it, and brake calipers and all. So I took his old calipers and made me a bracket here. You can see right there where the backing plate used to bolt up to. I just made me a template and a bracket right there at a 1/4 inch plate, and then welded a 1/4 inch gap here, and it fits right up in there. You don't have to worry about that at all. I don't remember what rotors these came off of. It was I don't know, I'll have to look it up on eBay and figure out which ones it was, but it fits perfect. Like, the gap's outstanding. It bolts right up. The brake lines are the same, so you just gotta, bend them instead of going straight into the backing plate. You just gotta put a kind of a 90 in it and tie it in right there. I think that'll be all right there. It's got new shocks on it, new fuel tanks, new sending units. So the sending units and the fuel tanks are a factory fuel tank, factory replacement. And instead of putting an in-tank pump in each tank, instead of fighting with that, I just opted to go everything factory until out of the selector. I don't know what you'd call it, the selector, I guess, where you can select right or left tank. Out of that is where my fuel line goes to my on-frame fuel pump. It's not a very big pump. It's not real big or anything. It's a pretty basic fuel pump. There's the fuel pump there. It's an Evo Energy on Amazon, so it runs all the way up into under this cover here, and that's where my selector switch is. Sorry, they're not selector switch, it's a selector valve, I guess. And it runs from there all the way, return and pressure, running to my fuel pump on the frame, and then running to the fuel filter, running to the engine. I think it'll work just fine for my application. So there's the T56. You can see there, this was a standard cab already. Standard cab 4-wheel drive, so it had a bunch of holes that I had to fill. You can see the welds there. Polyurethane mount with the Tejas steelwork cross member. It fits right up in there really nice in between the frame. I've got 6 grade 8 bolts holding it in. 3 on that side, 3 on this side, so it shouldn't go anywhere at all. I've got my crossover made already. I took the factory end. This is a factory passenger side truck manifold off of a Gen 4. I took the flange and got some 2.5 inch pipe, and just bent it up and, made it fit where I wanted it. And then I put on the other side a V-band for the turbo log, the turbo manifold, and just kind of made that nice and pretty there. You can see I got drilled and slotted rotors all the way around. Drilled and slotted rotors all the way around. Like I said, it's got new brake hoses, new brake lines, fuel tanks, everything's new there. And I've got I have a new evaporator, heater core, and dryer. Everything's going to be brand new. I'm going to maintain the factory AC. This cab was a standard, like I said before. So there was a hole here for the transfer case, or transmission, I guess, and then back here was a hole for the transfer case. I made plates, and, made them fit in there really nice, and just put my transmission shifter right there. I had to bend. It has a B&M short throw on it. I had to bend the lever forward just to put a seat, but it doesn't touch right there at all. In any gear, it doesn't touch. It's pretty comfortable when you're sitting in it. I'm maintaining the factory bench. I get reupholstered, obviously, but maintaining the factory bench. Not shortening the column or anything like that. I have my, and it was a manual door lock, manual hand crank window. I converted that to electric lock and electric window. I took, a harness out of another truck and just ran it through here. Bought a new door lock actuator with a rod. The rods are different. LMC truck has the actuators and the rods. They are different. You have to get new rods and actuators. The window motor will bolt right up. The regulator will bolt right up. You're gonna have to pull if you're doing this with the fenders on it, you're gonna have to pull the fender off, or you're gonna have to pull the door off. Either way to get to this grommet here. Again, this long grommet came from LMC truck, but it just tucks up right in there. On these cabs that were manual, they still have the holes already kind of punched, right? So they're not drilled; they're just punched. So it's real easy to figure out where to place that grommet at. So that's just a factory grommet, placed in the factory location. LMC truck, I got it like 20 bucks or something. It wasn't excessive. And then I made my own center harness. That, the crossover harness actually that's a lie. I took that harness, this crossover harness, out of like an 86 Bourbon. And it just runs right here all the way across to the other side. The original plug-ins here. Take your kickers off so you can get to that hole there. And it's kind of a pain because if you can kind of see there, the grommet coming in here and the grommet coming out up here are like there. You have to go up and then over. So it's kind of a pain. This hole especially is kind of a pain to drill because the dash is right in the way. But it's not terrible. And the factory harness, it obviously just plugs in right there. And then it just plugs in the fuse box with these little connectors here, these spades. It just plugs right into the fuse box. You already have in your factory fuse box, if you read what's on there, it already has power window, power lock, powers going from there. So it's pretty simple to plug in. It's not crazy or anything. Like I said, factory AC. I'm going to be running for the dash. I'm going to be running the odometer digital dash with the LCD screen right here in the middle of it. I think it looks a little bit nicer. I was going to keep it original and do a VSS dash out of like a 89 to 91 Suburban, I believe, and Blazer, that have the electronic speedometer, but they're a pain to find, and I've heard that I have a lot of issues with the speedometer not working. So I'm just going to spend $1,000 or whatever it is and buy the odometer digital dash, make it a little bit more modern. You can see the shifter here, and like I said, it was already a manual cab, so it already had the third pedal, and that's all bled and everything works there. So the shifter here, it's not uncomfortable by any means. You don't have to bend down to reach it or anything like that, so it's pretty comfortable there. I'm pretty proud of the Pcm Mount. A lot of people just leave them outside tied to the fender, but I wanted it to look more sleek. So whatever wires are outside, I'm just going to plug into the engine instead of going to the PCM as well. So I bought a standalone harness on eBay. It was like 500 bucks. And it just runs back to the bulk of the harness, and then this hole was already here. That was for the spark module that was underneath the dash originally, above the heater box. So I pulled all those wires out, and I pulled the spark module out, and this grommet fit in there perfectly. It's kind of a cheesy grommet. You can see it's already dry rotted, but it's there. So it just ties it together, makes it a little more professional. As for the Pcm mount, I've got it mounted right there. I re-insulated the firewall, pulled everything out, re-insulated it all. Kind of see it there. Got the heater box in there temporarily, just for mock-up purposes, but I do have the PCM mounted permanently. That's where it's going to ride. I have pictures of that as well, building that. I have pictures of it. But as you can see here, it clears, you know, the manual controls, you know, just fine. It's not a pain to get the heater box in or out of. To pull the PCM plugs off, you do have to pull this branch tube, you know, that distributes to the vents. It comes out of the bottom of the heater box and distributes to the vents here out of the dash. You do have to pull that off to pull the PCM out and the plug-ins out, but I don't really foresee myself having to do that very often, so it's not a big deal for me. I'm gonna mount my DLC right there under the ashtray, so that's not a big deal there. Yeah, it's coming together really nice. Everything's gonna be brand new, like I said. So the door seals, the felt, the vent window rubbers, the door seal, the door rubbers, everything's brand new. I got it all from LMC Truck. So all this came from LMC Truck, the door rubbers, and there's the vent glass seals here. And you do have to pay caution to whatever you're ordering the vent window seals, because there is a two-piece and a one-piece design. This is the two-piece design, and then these rubbers tie into the outside of the vent. So you have to be cautious because they are different. The vent windows are different. When you order the new vent window from LMC, it comes with the updated design, the one-piece rubber. But they're out of stock, and I think they were $250 each. So I just did it myself. Yeah, this cab's got some. This cab was rebuilt, or not rebuilt, but fixed in 95, 93, somewhere in there.